Welcome once again to Breakfast Central. Now let's get to the newspapers this morning and share with you what the major stories are making headlines across Nigeria this morning. We're going to be joined by Jide Johnson, of course, is with the Nigerian Institute of Journalism. But just before he gets in, let's begin with the Nation newspapers this morning.
All right, on the front page of the Nation newspaper, the big story says, Subsidy cut windfall. Government saves 1.83 trillion naira in 2 months. Oh, goodness. All these numbers keep jumping out every other day. It's how many million or how many trillion? What is this number used? Where is this number gotten from? And yet again, we must, okay, it's 2 months now. I think now it's safe to say 2 months because subsidy ended in June. Savings to be used for projects. What projects? No more borrowing. Okay. Elumelu says, government's bold decisions in Nigerians' interest. Why I won't beg federal government to release Mrs. Kano. This is one of the top stories we took in the first hour of the show, where IPOB has blamed the Supreme Court and the federal government especially for delaying Nnamdi Kano's trial. Lagos-Ibadan Expressway ready next month. I hope it is for real. NNPC's BOT suspends Kwankwaso. Ogbuku is chair of new NDDC board. And we have at the top of the paper, governors lead APC battles in Imo, Kogi, Bayelsa. Expect heavy rains in Ondo, Osun, Ogun. 26 others, NIMET alerts. And as we are taking this, making these announcements, it's important that we know that we've been following the updates with Lagdo Dam and how water will be released. They'll be releasing a bit of their dam, so there'll be flooding, a lot of flooding expected here in Nigeria. And I hope that we're doing what we need to do to protect ourselves from having a huge ton of people being internally displaced persons. Reports, Lagos is 5th best African city to live and work in. Do you agree with that?
There's other reports, and analysis that have shown that it's one of the worst places to live in on the continent. I think when they did like a top 20, Lagos was like on the bottom. Yeah, so it depends on who's analyzing it.
And it depends on the side of the table you're looking at it from. If you're looking at it, I mean, you said top 20 from the bottom. If you turn the paper upside down,
well, there's that. It also depends on the standards with which they're using to do this analysis. Yes. Because there's definitely parts of the the conversation that make Lagos look like really, really interesting place to live in. Maybe also do business in. Lagos
is an interesting place to live and work in. Lagos has the numbers that provide you for opportunity. So if you're an entrepreneur and your business is the kind that needs numbers, exactly, you will find those numbers here in Lagos.
But if it's about living standards, I don't know how highly rated it would be.
Yes, because you talk about the cost of accommodation, which is ridiculous.
Standard of accommodation, healthcare,
and the quality of the of the accommodation. You see some buildings that is like one bedroom apartment is like this table. Yeah. And then you're wondering how do people live here. But we cannot ignore the fact
standard of healthcare, clean water, air quality, a couple of all these things, that we need to look at, congestion, traffic. So yeah, it may not be that highly rated.
All right, we're now joined this morning by Jide Johnson, PhD. He's the Director of Special Programs, Nigerian Institute of Journalism, Lagos. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, and good morning to our viewers all over the world. It's a pleasure to be with you.
All right, now we're looking at the front page of the Nation newspaper, and there's some stories that we've taken on the front page, and I'd like you to maybe react to one story. So, taking my final story, Oyo to spend 8.6 billion on 200,000 households in 1 million families. I'd like you to react to the big story. It says, subsidy cut windfall. Government saves 1.83 trillion naira in 2 months. Savings is said to be used for projects and no more borrowing, they say.
Well, we don't know where the figure is coming from. Is it coming from the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation? Or is it coming from Federal Ministry of Finance? And sometimes these figures are just thrown at us without any credible evidence backing up where this figure is coming from. So as far as I'm concerned, and most of the public are concerned, they are taking this with a pinch of salt because we've seen figures being bandied around over and over time again. You recall that same claim was made by Oshibaju when subsidy was removed under Buhari's administration. So we've been seeing government coming out to tell us that they saved money from subsidy removal. yet you are seeing the increase in cost of governance with more ministers and more commissioners and more heads being appointed through the length and breadth of the State Executive Council and Federal Executive Council. So as far as I'm concerned, once they come out with this type of figures, I take it with a pinch of salt, and I think that's the way majority of Nigerians also react to these figures, because you just see it on paper. In reality, there's no, we have double-digit inflation. The cost of living is very, very high. A lot of Nigerians are living below poverty line. And at the same time, last week, a new statistics was released showing that the percentage of unemployed Nigerians have reduced drastically. Depending on the indices you are using to measure, that will determine the kind of outcome which you have. So Nigerians have gotten to the point that saying that government agencies and its personnel over time are manipulating data. Just for political reasons or to score cheap political points. So I'm taking this with a pinch of salt, because I don't really anything with respect to subsidy. I've said it over time. Since I was young, now I'm old. All I've been hearing is removal of subsidy. You can't be removing subsidy since 1970s till we get to 2023, and then Nigeria will still believe that you are saving money. As far I don't think an average Nigerian would take them serious with whatever figure they're coming out with.
Yeah, time will tell, when, of course, it's time for the 2024 budget and, Nigeria needs to raise money. We'll then see if we've actually saved anything or we still need to borrow. Only time will tell. But, of course, the government has that, a couple of months to share and to show us that they are actually doing things different. Let's go to The Guardian this morning. There's a very interesting story there that, also, of course, defines Nigeria's history in decades. On The Guardian this morning, it says there, CBN BDCs on collision course as FX black market premium widens. Also, police disrupt gay marriage and arrest 67 guests in Delta. Reps probe panel denies bribery allegation, summons VCs. Insecurity, Niger proposes amnesty for bandits on Niger, beg your pardon. And also an army of retired active generals still recruiting. Few other stories. Private sector okays Tinubu's reforms, seeks input in federal government's 8-point agenda. And also federal government promises completion of Lagos-Ibadan Expressway by mid-September. That's the one that I want you to quickly jump in on, because over time, I did, a couple of years ago, look through the National Assembly's budget and the amount of money that were voted for the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, and of course, roads in the southeast, Aba Port Harcourt, and I think Enugu Onitsha Expressway, a couple of these roads, and it runs into billions and billions of naira. Whether they were actually released or not, we do not know, but billions and billions of naira were voted for those roads. But we are still talking in 2023 about the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Jide Johnson, what are your thoughts?
Don't forget that Obasanjo administration worked on that road. I don't know about but Jonathan administration worked on that. In fact, Jonathan administration initiated that road. And then Fashola made promises that the road will be completed. If it's taking you more than 16 years to complete a 6-lane, less than 120 kilometer road, it's taking you 6 years. That's Lagos-Ibadan. Not even talk about the East-West road in Port Harcourt to Aba or other roads in this country. And then you begin to wonder how many years will it take for us to have a good road network across the length and breadth of Nigeria. I think that what has happened with this major trunk A road is an opportunity for each successive government, that's my opinion, to budget money, and I see it as a drain pipe, because I don't know how many years it will take to construct Lagos to Ibadan Expressway. The road construction was started before I started doing my PhD program. I completed my PhD program. The road is still under construction. So you can imagine what is really going on. And a successive minister will come and they will give us assurances. For me, it's not even about the completion or non-completion of the road. It's about the number of lives, time, and resources that have been wasted on that particular road. You know how many lockdowns a lot of people flying that road have gone through. How many hardships? I can recall sometimes I spent 7 hours on that road since construction. Sometimes 4 hours, sometimes 2 hours. Just a stretch that wouldn't take you less than 10 to 15 minutes. And it seems they don't really even care about us. Even the construction company, I don't want to mention their names, the construction companies that are involved, sometimes they don't even provide alternative road when they are doing construction. It's like they are doing Nigerian favor. It's only in Nigeria when government is working on a project and they derive pleasure in inflicting pain on people, not explaining to them. I recall while we are growing up, when a road was to be reconstructed or was to be maintained, it will be announced via the media, and people will be adequately informed. An alternative route will be provided. But the reverse is the case. Even when we have military administration. The reverse is the case in under a government that is called the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. It seems they care less about you and I. If you fly through that road, particularly the Lagos end of that road, they've been working on it since God knows when. They've been working on it, and you wonder what's really going on. Is this a drain pipe? Is this an opportunity for people to make money out of this project? Hopefully they will come. Maria said mid-September. Mid-September will soon be here. It's just about some 18, 19 days away. We'll see what will happen.
All right. Thank you very much for that analysis. We certainly will see what will happen. We hope for the best in that story, and that we don't have to continue seeing situations like this where the people are thrown into chaos because the roads need to be fixed. Let's move away from the Guardian newspaper to the next paper. Let's have a look at the Daily Trust and see what the front page is, or what the front page is saying. Despite flood alerts, states yet to evacuate citizens. Rice farms submerged in Taraba. Residents vacate homes. NIWA deploys boats for rescue operations. Builds new locations for evacuation. Action Aid tells government. 6 die, others injured as building collapses at Boronu IDP camp. Wike appears on APC PDP campaign councils for Bayelsa governorship poll. Tinubu appoints new NDDC board, and management. Police storm gay marriage venue in Delta. Arrest couple in 65 orders. And NPP factions differ over Kwankwaso's suspension. BOT's chair's expulsion. Algeria proposes 6 months transition to resolve Niger crisis. Nigerian equities beats 15-year record, hits 66,490 basis points. I want your thoughts on the flood alert. We've gotten the flood alert. I mean, we've been talking about it on the show, and how even with the Lagdo Dam and the work that, or the Lagdo Dam being about to be released, and there had been warnings about certain communities being potentially flooded. It doesn't seem like much is being done. Are we ready?
Well, you read what one agency said with respect to whether Action Aid or something like that. That said government needs to build some new sites where evacuees could be accommodated. It's very clear year in, year out. We knew the season, we knew what would happen this season, but what type of preparation do we make? And then if you look at the budget of Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, and all other agencies of government, and what has been provided for them with respect to dealing with this particular issue, you ask yourself, where does this money go to? As far as it shouldn't be catching anybody by surprise what will happen this particular. It's like telling Florida government or the coastal states in America that during the hurricane season, hurricane season, they don't know what to do. They are fully and adequately prepared for what to do. The warnings are given, temporary shelters are provided, and the people are guided in moving to those temporary shelters. But it's unfortunate that in Nigeria you are left on your own. What government is interested in is how to collect money from you through one form of taxes, whether indirect, whether direct taxes through your PE, or consumption taxes through VAT and other forms of taxes, or forceful taxes, which they collect where you have toll gates on some roads, or where they collect from commuters, drivers driving buses. So this shouldn't surprise anybody, because it's clear you are left at the mercy of yourself.
All right. You know what? Hold that thought right now. We'll come back to wrap up the story. We want to go on a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have your further thoughts on this, but please hold that thought. All right, very quickly, please wrap up your thoughts you were sharing on the emergency responses towards the flood, and how unprepared or prepared you think Nigeria is.
Well, I think that we need to put our eyes on the ball. A lot of time in the past, we have left people at the mercy of the flood, where the government does not provide alternative shelter, so that these people can move in during this particular season. And after the flood season, they can return back to their ancestral home. People are emotionally attached to their ancestral home. And there's the need for proper coordination among various agencies, tiers of government, the local, the state, and the federal, and other agencies at these tiers of government. And I think if we do that, we'll not be having this recurrent and perennial problem of evacuees refusing to leave because they have nowhere to go, and government making a mountain out of this molehill by putting money and we not seeing the money. And I think that's important for us to do.
Jide Johnson, before you go, there's also a story in the Daily Trust that speaks about the NDDC board and the reinauguration of the NDDC board. A couple of new names have been mentioned. Actually, a lot of them have been mentioned. But, I want you to refer to where the NDDC's journey is, coming from. In 2019, the board was suspended. There was, of course, a call for an audit by President Muhammadu Buhari, former President Muhammadu Buhari. The audit didn't really provide anything substantial. Somebody collapsed, during a National Assembly session. And of course, that board remained suspended. In 2022, a new board was seemingly inaugurated with Loretta Onoche, being named as a member of that board. And now, of course, the Tinubu government has brought, a new set of names to handle the NDDC. So my question, of course, is what happened to the audit of the NDDC? The audit showed that about 6 trillion naira had passed through the NDDC in the 18-year period under review. Where's all that money? And do you think the current administration has any interest in actually cleaning up the NDDC?
Well, the Honorable Minister holding the microphone then is now the Senate President, who has the gavel in his hand and has an oversight committee. If there's any review that can be done here, it's within the confines of his power and his authority. But as far as the issue of NDDC is concerned, I can assure you, just like NNPC, just like various probes we have had in the past, that's gone. It's like a new page and a new leaf has been opened, and a new chapter has been opened. When it comes to the issue of probe in Nigeria, we just see the trial, media trial, and then orchestrated trial to win public sympathy. The real report, we don't get to see the real report of the outcome of whatever investigation they carried out. So it has become the norm. As far as this is my opinion in any case, I don't think we are going to see any light concerning that investigation of that review of the NDDC, because the actors and players still remain the same. It's just their role that keeps changing. The same set of people that are in these offices have changed. Sometimes some of them even go to higher authority. And I've said it. It's unfortunate. I might be wrong, but that's my opinion in any case. In Nigeria, it's Nigeria that we reward criminality and we reward incompetence. And you see people that have been given responsibility in the past and they mismanage those opportunities that are given to them. They are even given a position of higher responsibility that even require accountability. Accountability is not part of the watchword of what we do in our country. Transparency is not part of the watchword of what we do in our country. And it's unfortunate, but that's the situation we have found ourselves.
All right. Well, we're just going to have to hope that the time comes when accountability becomes the watchword here in our country. Jide Johnson, thank you so much for your time with us this morning. We look forward to having you again.
It's a pleasure to be with you. Have a wonderful midweek.
You as well.